Hello, my name is Glenn Rogers, and I'm your host on All About Cops, the show that is giving you the pulse of the people. We're bringing the issues to you that really matter as it pertains to law enforcement. So stay tuned for many great interviews with people just like you. Okay, we're here in O'Fallon Park with more interviews on All About Cops, and I have with me here today who?
Eric Prospect White.
Eric, glad to have you here with us. Eric, let me ask you something. You know, they're doing a lot of talk about police-related issues, and a lot of people have their comments, and they think that some cops are doing good, some cops are not. Crime is rampant, kids are getting shot. Do you think that this is a problem that the police can solve?
Largely, I think it's a problem that families need to solve. You know, oftentimes we talk about separation between religion and state, but let's not negate the fact that we need to actually have a separation between family and career. You know, a person told me a while ago, your politics affects me personally. And when we're talking about police, those police are put in positions that they have to enforce those policies that may affect any particular individual in certain ways, and some not so much. All of that's perception, but we need to talk about family. We need to talk about if families need to have certain kids across the street deported because they weren't documented.
Okay, so you've got an issue with the documentation of supposedly illegal aliens. Do you feel like the Trump administration using the ICE officers is actually on the right path of what he should be doing, or do you have a problem with that?
In all honesty, I can't call that. I'm a black man in America, you know, so certain issues hit me harder than home, but not to say that I'm not oppressed by these policies nonetheless. I think the Trump administration is igniting hate, is lighting fires of a speech that divides this country furthermore than the detriments that we've already seen. But for the most part, I'm a black man in St. Louis. I live in America, and the military rides around in Tahoes every single day. So those
Oh, wait.
issues
Now
affect
the
me a lot
military
more.
rides around in Tahoes. Explain that to me, brother. What do you mean?
The military rides around in Tahoes.
Oh, you mean so the law enforcement, the police are in? Oh, I see. Okay. I want to know, how do you feel about the way that the police are doing their job now? Do you think they're doing a good job in St. Louis?
As my wife just said, terrible. I agree with that. For the most part, it's trash. Most leadership in St. Louis right now is trash. It's divisive. It's old boys club type mentality. It's status quo to the fullest. It is not productive. It doesn't help its citizens. It's not.
Do you think there should be no police officers?
No, we can't be lawless, but at the same time, I think police officers need to come from a different source. We, as people who live in these particular neighborhoods, need to actually own what's going on. Like when we talk about actually doing work that's going to have a positive impact on all of these communities, we have to understand that none of us actually think alike. We have to come to some type of agreements, a democracy at the end of the day. Now, how we enforce these things, it should not be outside people who don't live in these neighborhoods.
Oh, wait. Now, you might be getting on something here.
We can't
now,
talk, right?
There's a thing called community control of the police that some are pushing. Do you think that a police officer should have to live in the area that he patrols?
I firmly agree with that. I think that if an officer lives in the neighborhood that he or she may patrol, they have more respect and common courtesy for the actual individuals, regardless what they look like, who actually live and habitat these spaces in these communities. When you have outside people who can care less about a certain population of any particular neighborhood in St. Louis, then you bring in demons that terrorize people that they didn't care about to begin with.
You know what? I had an Asian man that I interviewed last week, and I asked him if he thought it would be okay that if all the cops in Chinatown were black, would he be okay with that? Well, this is what he said. He said that the cops should have an interest in the area in which they patrol. Do you think that if the city is, say, 50% white, that the cops should only be 50% in proportion in the department?
See, man, when we got to talk about 50% white when we got to talk about the fact that we have a St. Louis Police Officers Association and we have a black St. Louis Police Officers Association. That's a problem to begin with. Like, we're talking about a problem that's a result of another problem. I think it's deeper than that.
Brother, this man just said something that I have heard no one say. There are actually two different police officers associations. In fact, there's more.
To begin with.
That means
Everything else is
among
on
the
top.
police officers associations, there's the white and the black. That in itself tells you there is a racial problem in this country.
Facts. Like, if you look at how this city is operating, I lived in St. Louis all my life. My education didn't come primarily from a St. Louis public school. However, I lived in the St. Louis neighborhood, St. Louis city neighborhoods my entire life.
Do you get harassed by the police?
Man, I got stopped by the police coming out of my house, and the police said they stopped me because they thought I broke in my house. Like, they didn't ask me for my ID. If they'd have asked me, the numbers matched the numbers on the building. But nah, I got a lot of stories about how St. Louis operates, which is why I got a lot of opinions about how St. Louis operates.
Did you take that incident to Internal Affairs?
After this happened, you know, I work closely with my neighborhood. I have a kids organization that does art camps for Benton Park West, Dutchtown South every summer. I'm a school teacher. I work at Woodward Elementary in South City. Like, I work with different people to make different things happen in my neighborhood. After that particular incident, I had a meeting with my alderman, who I talk to on a regular basis, as well as across the street aldermen, you know, because I live in this neighborhood.
Sure.
I need to know. But we set up a meeting. We had all the captains and lieutenants who were in charge of patrol in the particular neighborhood I live in where this happened. And he told me, hey, these things are gonna happen because you look the way you do. Like, he told me that to my face. He said, you fit the demographic of so many things that we are looking for as police officers riding around in our Tahoes, that this probably won't be the last time this happens to you. And he even went further into it to say that the particular unit that did this to you, they are a rogue unit. So
Oh my God.
in less than 7 minutes, the chief of police of St. Louis told me that because I look the way I do, messed up things are going to continue to happen to me, and I can't stop these rogue units because I look the way I do.
So you think I should be selling you some a blonde wig and some blue contacts? Would that help?
Man, I think I'd rather die looking the way I do and feeling the way I do, and whatever happens, happens.
All right, now I've got another question for you. Do you, a lot of the brothers and sisters that I've interviewed have said that the police officers need to be more involved with the people in which they patrol. Now, do you have a relationship with any police officer?
I do.
Do you know the names of, say, 2 police officers? Don't give me the names. Do you know the names of 2 police officers?
I got the 2 ones that I would talk to if anything happened, because to be honest, like, I live in St. Louis. We lost like 16, 17 babies in the last 3 months. Like, I feel like if you out here bogus and you need to be stopped, I'm gonna do everything to stop you outside of calling the police, because that's a sensitive issue. Personally, I feel like if anybody ever called the police on anybody else, they are fully prepared for that person to die that day. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's how I legitimately think. Now, I do have 2 officers in my neighborhood. I see them every day. I'm a charismatic guy. I'm gonna have conversations. I know they see some of the things that I see walking out my front door. It only makes sense to build relationships with people around you. That's not just police officers. That's your neighbors. That's your mailman. That's your UPS guy. Whatever it is, they all come in the same circles, and we need to wrap it out. We don't need to have people talking about, hey, so and so shot somebody. All right, cool. Instead of calling the police, I know 2 police officers like you just asked me that I could call on, but I know about 60 Crips that can fix a problem faster with less effort and minimum violence. Like, we calling the wrong boys in blue out here.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you think that, you know, years ago the police used to walk the beat, and now they drive through the street? Now, do you think that police should begin to walk, they be ordered to walk through the beat and walk through the communities more?
Man, what I think don't matter. All of that is messaging. All of that is programming. Them walking the beat no more and jumping inside of those Tahoes, running up and down the streets, that's no different than certain people can't ride horses. Like that kind of symbolizes that to me. You're not actually getting out trying to get to know these people who live at this address that you ride by every day. That's intimidation factor. Like that's not a helping hand. That's terrorization.
So you're saying it's not good enough for them to just intermingle with the people. They need to put some heart in it. Is that what you're saying?
And me personally, yeah, they need to put some heart in it. And personally, that wouldn't not walking the beat anymore and just staying in the trucks. That wouldn't even be a problem with me had I not had so many incidents. Like when I needed the help, I couldn't get it. When I didn't want it, I got too much.
All right, now I want to ask you this. A lot of the people that I talk to are frustrated that there's nothing that they can do when, say, a police officer happens to be found doing something dirty or wrong. Do you think that the public ought to be able to vote as to whether or not a police officer is fired?
Why do the public got to vote if the organization is running the way it's supposed to? When somebody that come to work late at Steak and Shake, does the public got to vote if he should be fired or not? Like, don't we have people in place to make sure this operation is running exactly how it's supposed to? Like, I know we're talking about a public service, but we talk about the cream of the crop of the people in this public service.
Well,
like,
you said cream of the crop. They often say that police officers are the city's finest. Do you believe that?
Finest what? You got to finish that sentence.
They don't finish it.
That's irrational. That can go several different. They're the finest crooks. that the least likely to go to jail. Can we finish that sentence? Most finest what?
Okay. So
we actually got a police group under the police called St. Louis Finest.
Now let me ask you this. If they made you a police officer, what would you do differently? Or say, that's hypothetically, your job now is to police. The public has to rely on you. What would you do different than what you see today?
First off, we got a black police union and a white police union. Like you can't build up on faulty foundation.
No, not that.
That has to be square one.
Specifically, I know you hired now. You're the patrol car. What are you going to do differently every day?
But what I'm saying to you is taking a step back from that. I can't be hired under these conditions. You know what I'm saying? We don't build on top of a slanted hill. We level this thing out and then we go up. I can't be hired if it doesn't make sense in the first place. I can't be hired if I'm a police officer in St. Louis.
Let me ask the question differently then.
My wife's waiting on me very patiently.
Okay,
I need to go soon.
Okay. Is there anything that you would do differently than what you see today if you were driving in a police car, if you were the police officer?
You can help your community and build your community without being a police officer. The police officer especially in St. Louis, is rooted in evil. You can help. You can still fight the same good cause that you want to fight without putting on that uniform.
All right. You know, you can make a citizen's arrest, but you sure better know what you're doing. Brother, I want to thank you.
No problem.
I appreciate everything you're trying to do.
Prospect, we out here.